The US government has warriors so secret, even their names are erased from history. Tonight, we uncover the hidden world of CIA shadow operations.
Decisively and completely out of the public eye. So welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to peel back the highly classified curtain of Tier 1 military operators and CIA paramilitaries. We're diving straight into the hidden bases, those grueling night missions, and the immense psychological weight of a life spent in the absolute highest echelons of classified work. Let's get right into it. Anybody can be brave for 5 minutes. The question is, what you do in minutes 6 and 7. That's a quote from Master Sergeant Okafor, and it perfectly captures this really grueling psychological reality of being an elite operator. I mean, this isn't Hollywood, right? This is all about what you do when the cameras are off, when that adrenaline completely fades, your body is just broken, and there is absolutely no one left to impress. What do you do when nobody is watching? That is the foundational question of the shadow operator. Section 1. The making of a ghost. Building an operator from the mud up. So, it all starts in the diesel fumes and red clay of Fort Benning, Georgia. Picture this. You're a 19-year-old infantry volunteer. And you didn't just stumble into this life, you actively walked toward it. Let's walk through this unforgiving timeline together. It literally starts with 11 weeks of basic combat training, where the fatigue is so bone deep you see guys crying into their pillows. And look, that's not out of weakness, it's just absolute exhaustion. Then, boom, it's 14 months in the 75th Ranger Regiment. You're conducting intense night raids in the Kunar province, sprinting through doorways in the pitch dark. And get this, all of this happens before you were even noticed for Delta Force selection, let alone the Operators Training Course, or OTC, where the final polishing actually happens. Then comes the actual Delta selection process, kicking off in the Appalachian Mountains with solo land navigation. We're talking fog, incredibly heavy rucksacks, blisters inside of blisters. But here's the crazy secret about this. It really isn't about physical strength. The physical part, that's just the baseline. The final event, known as the long walk, gives you absolutely no time limit and no distance. It's entirely designed to break the human mind's innate desire to calculate a finish line. They basically just want to see if you can function when uncertainty is absolute. And the math here is absolutely brutal. Look at this. Out of 19 highly elite, hardened candidates in a selection cohort, usually only 4 receive a letter inviting them to continue. Just 4. You aren't just learning to shoot, you're literally learning how to be a completely autonomous, critical thinking instrument under deeply, deeply degrading conditions. Section 2. The anonymous night missions, the silent math of Tier 1. We shift now to the intense reality of a 24-year-old Tier 1 operator. Try to contrast the chaotic public perception of war with this hyper-efficient, silent reality. Say it's 2011, and you conduct a flawless direct-action raid in the Salah ad-Din province of Iraq. It takes exactly 3 minutes. 3 minutes, you capture the target, and your debrief, it's a startlingly brief 40 words. 0 headlines, the world is safer because of a night you will never, ever be able to describe to anyone outside your unit. But we actually need to slow down for a second here to emphasize the intense emotional toll this life extracts. You might deploy 4 times in 3 years, and sometimes the loss isn't some dramatic, cinematic combat moment. It's losing a teammate, like Specialist Reyes, to a random, ordinary vehicle accident. You stand at his funeral in your dress uniform, and you don't speak, mostly because there's just nothing to say. You just carry that immense weight forward right into the next deployment. Moving on to Section 3. Crossing over to the CIA, where military precision meets covert intelligence. So what happens when these military ghosts actually leave the service? Well, they often vanish straight into the cubicles of the CIA's Counterterrorism Center. They literally sit on designated aisles jokingly named Bin Laden Boulevard. And what's truly fascinating is how these unacknowledged operators, former Delta Force and SEAL Team 6 guys, operate within the Special Activities Division. They just appear among regular intelligence analysts. They don't chat, they don't even say good morning. They just vanish for weeks at a time to conduct highly dangerous, completely nameless operations in places like Benghazi or Karachi. 25. Now that staggering number highlights the unbelievable immediate efficiency of the CIA's paramilitary shift right after 9/11. The agency transformed virtually overnight into a paramilitary force. By Christmas of 2001, just months after that shift, there were only 25 active core al-Qaeda members remaining in Afghanistan. The core fighting force had been effectively dismantled. It's wild to think about. But this is a realm of immense complexity. On one hand, you have the incredible protective bravery of units like the Global Response Staff, or GRS, who literally throw their bodies in front of case officers in war zones. On the other hand, rendering, which is covertly capturing and transferring threats globally outside the normal judicial process, involves immense constitutional risks. Mistakes happen. The wrong person gets targeted, which heavily tests the boundaries of the rule of law. It's a massive high-wire act in the shadows, where CIA officers who fall don't even get their actual names listed next to their stars on the agency's wall of honor.
Section 4. The weight of command, holding the map and the door.
Let's look at the escalating burden as an operator ages into leadership, where the cost of a single mistake expands way beyond your own life. At 27, as a team leader, you're improvising during a Kurdistan hostage rescue where the plan just goes completely out the window in 40 seconds. You are literally holding the map in your head while holding the actual door. But at 33, as a troop sergeant major, the burden totally changes. Now, you're doing the psychological heavy lifting of looking a highly decorated veteran operator, let's say a guy named Whitfield, in the eye and telling him his decisions are getting too cautious. You have to rebuild men, and honestly, that's far harder than executing a tactical raid. Then, at age 38, as a squadron commander, you're no longer in the room breaching the door. You're sitting in an operations center at 3:40 in the morning. You no longer think in hours, right? You think in months. You are entirely shielded from the kinetic action, absorbing all the political risk so your men don't have to. And when a Syrian raid goes cleanly, you don't really feel pride. You just feel a heavy, quiet gratitude that the decisions you made 8 months ago held up under fire. Section 5. JSOC and political battlefields, translating the kinetic into policy. Okay, so now you're 50 years old, commanding the entire enterprise. As the commander of JSOC, that's the Joint Special Operations Command, you walk the ultimate tightrope. You basically have to speak 2 languages simultaneously. You have to translate the flawless, highly lethal language of operations, spoken by your Tier 1 guys, directly into the bureaucratic language of institutions, spoken by the politicians who actually authorize your missions. If you fail at this translation, the missions don't happen, or worse, they become massive diplomatic disasters. The relentless pressure of this scope is honestly hard to overstate. You are managing operations across 4 continents at once. Take a 2024 hostage situation in West Africa, for example. You have exactly 90 minutes to brief the Secretary of Defense and make a recommendation that will literally shape global policy. And when the operation works and 11 hostages come home, there's no celebration. Success is not celebrated at this level. It's merely cataloged as data for the next global crisis. It's just on to the next one.
Section 6. Minute 6 in the aftermath. The silence of the veteran.
Eventually, the machinery stops. Those 3 a.m. phone calls from the Pentagon just abruptly cease. I want to drop you right into the haunting piece of this retirement. You're 53, standing in a grocery store on a random Wednesday afternoon, completely disconnected from what normal civilians consider an emergency. I mean, you spent over 3 decades walking into the hardest rooms in the world, completely unacknowledged. The public recognition was never meant to come. All that's left is the silent, perfect craft that you have passed down to the next generation of ghosts. Which brings us right full circle to the words of Master Sergeant Okafor. You survive the mud, the mountains, the night raids, the intelligence briefings, and the massive weight of command. Anybody can be brave for 5 minutes, but after the guns go quiet, after the adrenaline is completely gone, and after a life spent entirely in the shadows, what do you do in minute 6? It's a lot to think about. Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer. We'll see you next time.